Well, a continuing saga. Once again, just like the drain plug, one was SAE and one was metric. Unfortunately, this time it's the same thing for the two mounting points for the radiator, but I don't have an SAE to cut the threads of the bolts, so I'm going to have to convert both of them to a different metric size. So all I got to do is take this little wonder and just start it in the hole, because it's very close to the there's just a little bit of resistance there. Not very much. And we're basically to the bottom of the radiator there. It's an awfully big wrench for a mighty small tap. And then I'll cut this one. The bolts I'm going to have to go put in the vise, because I can't hang on to the bolt and do that at the same time. Yeah, there's just a little bit of resistance. And we're through. Nowhere near what this thing was. I didn't record that, but I had to be a whole lot more careful on that one, that I didn't break the die, because this would be a tap, and then these ones would be called a die. So I'm changing both sides to 10 millimeter by 1.5 millimeter thread. So now I will take these and go in the shop and do that part. And we'll see how this goes. This is pretty pitiful lighting in here with this I don't have any overhead lighting or anything. Yeah, this is a lot tighter. So I gotta be a lot more careful, because they have these holes drilled through them for the keeper or cotter pin. Ooh, that gets real tight. I'm pretty much past the cotter pin hole now. It's smoothed out. It's lost the unevenness of the going over the cotter pin. So if I got that much sticking out the top, then I'll go a little bit farther. Not necessarily ideal to have to do this, but yeah, we're getting there. it's getting real tight, so I'm hitting the bottom there. Not super pretty. But that cuts it to the different thread. So now set it on there. Come on. The little holes in the end of it don't make it very easy. There we go. Kind of goes clunk clunk over the holes because it loses the resistance. But all these bolts they just go in the bottom of the radiator, so there's not really a tremendous amount of stress. And I'll put some kind of Loctite on it to keep them from wiggling around, because the little 3-cylinder engine, it does have a bit of vibration. It doesn't vibrate like a inline engine with an even number of cylinders. It vibrates front to back because it has an odd number. That's just a trait of inline engines that have odd numbers of cylinders. So we're getting there. It stopped. What do you know? They're the same thread now. It's amazing how that works. All right, outside to check it again. Okay, back out here. What do you know? It goes through like it's supposed to. That one goes through like it's supposed to too. So now, uh-oh, they got tight. Yeah, they're not perfect, but it beats buying new bolts. So anyway, I thought I'd make a little video about that. I don't see too many people doing that kind of stuff. So thanks for watching. Bye. Well, here goes nothing. See if this thing pours water out anywhere. Well, Gonna have to go get more water. Alright, let's try this again with some light on it. Definitely have come across some differences between the original radiator and this one, besides the thread difference. Well, let's see. Oh, we got a drip. Got a drip out of the end of the hose here. So I'll have to go fiddle with that. What else have we got over here? Well, maybe I'll take this thing off. I'm not seeing. I'm not seeing any leak on the freeze plug. That's good. So that looks dry around that hose. That looks dry on that one. So I tighten up that hose somehow on the other side. All right. Time for a little test fire. 1001, 1002, 1003, 1004, 1005. And just, I'm not going anywhere, so I'm just basically, I'm checking that the fan does not hit the shroud right now. Maybe a little more glow plug. Or I sat here and talked, that's the problem. We're good. Old beast runs. It sure is a little thing. There, quiet. Seems to be doing good. The grip is gone. What are we doing? Water's still full. So, yeah, remember, this does not have a water pump. That is the generator behind the fan. That's the generator. So these old 1980s tractors, sometimes this one uses natural convection to work the cooling system. So a little bit of expansion, but I think we're good. I think we're good. I don't need to run it any longer than that with all this stuff tore apart. Just basically a check, because I have to put the shield on behind this air cleaner, because if I just mount this air cleaner up and then I can't get the shield on over the top of the air cleaner. So yeah, it's of course, maybe if I adjust the camera so you can actually see what I'm looking at. But this housing here is part of the short block, and the injection pump is in that. And I've previously talked about the extra hydraulic pump that is for the 3-point system. That is the hydraulic pump there, but it uses the gear oil of the transmission. It does not use hydraulic oil. It's using the gear oil in the transmission. And the other funky thing about these things is the valves all over this tractor. When it's against the flow through the line, it's open. There's little Japanese symbols there. I don't have a clue what they say. But when this thing is that way, it's literally shut the fuel off. But when it's that way, the fuel is open. And the same thing is for the new valve. Gosh, yeah, you can see that in there. Is when it's you would think the valve would be open, but yeah, I don't get that. It has to be a Japanese thing, because the core of the tractor was manufactured in Japan and it came over stateside, but the loader and the backhoe were manufactured stateside, whereas the tractor came from Japan. Or at least that's the story that I've been told. So lots of little differences between this aftermarket radiator. Not necessarily, things that make a difference. Obviously the thread, that has been a hassle, having the different thread. But luckily the fan shroud was close enough that I could get it in. One of the funky differences is the drain tube for the radiator overflow is literally on the opposite side of the filler. So, and then this piece here that says Kubota on it, that's from the old radiator, and you see it's sitting down. Come on, I can't see the screen there. Well, it was, and it's just not quite in there right. So, are we saving money? Yeah. But if I didn't have the tap and dies and whatnot to adapt it to fit and work, I would have to go buy that stuff, all that tap and die stuff. So another problem, even with the old radiator, is this bottom hose is right up against the screen. See it? Got it here. Which one is this? I think it's, yeah, this is the correct one. And that real close to being, yeah, that would be there. So, you know, that's how we lost the lower hose, was it was rubbing on this extremely light duty expanded metal. I could, you know, you can bend that with your finger real easy, so it's just and it's been abused from the bottom side. Yeah, there's not very much to that expanded metal. It's pretty light duty. So, and the other one, this is check oil. Yeah, so check oil is on the other side. So, and I had to literally, for no other reason but to be able to slide this thing over the exhaust, I had to take all the shielding off from this. Hey, that's warm to the touch. I wonder why. So it was either take all the shielding off or take half of the shielding off and then pull the 4 bolts and then wind up having to replace the gasket on the exhaust. And I'm like, no, I'll just take the rest of the shielding off and squeeze this thing out of there just barely. So anyway, that's the progress report of Tinkerbell. So it's going, but you got to figure out the right threads to make it all work. It definitely slows the process down. So I'll call it. That's it's getting to the point where you can't hardly see anything out. I got to have a flashlight on my head to see anything. So thanks for watching. Later.